If you feel lost, empty, or like nothing is ever enough, this message is for you. Because happiness isn't something you find, it's something you build. In this video, you'll learn how to regain control of your mind and rediscover real happiness using the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Stay with me, because one shift in your thinking can change everything. Happiness is something most people chase but rarely understand. They look for it in success, in money, in relationships, or in external validation. And for a moment, it feels real. But it never lasts. The problem is not that happiness is impossible, it's that most people are looking in the wrong place. Stoicism teaches a different path. It teaches that happiness is not found outside of you, it is built from within. It comes from how you think, how you respond, and how you live your life daily. Before we go deeper, subscribe to this channel now for more powerful Stoic lessons that will help you build a calm, disciplined, and fulfilled life. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to feel happy is because they constantly focus on what they don't have. They compare their lives to others. They look at what's missing instead of what's present. This creates a mindset of lack. No matter how much you achieve, it will never feel enough if your focus is always on what's missing. The mind will always find something else to desire. A stronger approach is to shift your attention. Not to ignore your goals, but to appreciate what already exists in your life. Gratitude is not weakness, it is awareness. And awareness brings peace. Another reason happiness feels distant is because people attach it to outcomes. They tell themselves, I'll be happy when I achieve this, when I get that, when things finally go my way. But life doesn't work like that. There will always be another goal, another challenge, another problem to solve. If your happiness depends on the future, you will always feel incomplete in the present. Stoicism teaches you to separate happiness from outcomes, to focus on the process, the effort, and the present moment. Because the present is the only place where life actually exists. Many people also struggle because they avoid discomfort. They seek easy paths, quick pleasure, and constant entertainment. But comfort does not create happiness, it creates dependency. The more you rely on comfort, the weaker your mind becomes. And the weaker your mind becomes, the harder it is to handle real life. True happiness comes from strength. From knowing you can face challenges, endure hardship, and still remain steady. When you build that strength, you stop fearing life, and that brings a deep sense of peace. Another hidden cause of unhappiness is lack of control over your thoughts. Negative thinking, overthinking, and constant worry drain your energy. You begin to live inside your head instead of in reality. Stoicism teaches that your thoughts are not always truth. They are interpretations, and you have the power to question them. When a negative thought appears, you don't have to accept it. You can observe it, challenge it, and replace it with something more useful. This is how you take back control of your mind. Happiness also becomes difficult when you try to control everything around you. Other people, outcomes, situations, you want everything to go your way. But the truth is, most things are outside your control, and trying to control them only creates frustration. Stoicism offers a simple but powerful idea. Focus only on what you can control: your actions, your mindset, your choices. Let go of everything else. When you do this, your mind becomes lighter. You stop fighting reality, and you start working with it. Another reason people feel unhappy is because they forget their purpose. They move through life without direction, reacting instead of acting. Without purpose, everything feels empty. You don't need a perfect plan, but you need something to move toward, something that gives your actions meaning. Purpose creates structure. It gives you a reason to wake up, to improve, to push forward. And when your life has direction, happiness becomes a result, not a goal. There is also a quiet truth most people avoid: happiness is not constant. It comes and goes. Expecting to feel happy all the time creates pressure. It makes normal emotions feel like failure. Stoicism teaches acceptance. Some days will be harder. Some moments will feel heavy. That doesn't mean your life is broken. It means you are human. And when you accept this, you stop resisting your emotions. You allow them to pass, and you remain steady. One of the deepest reasons people struggle with happiness is because they are constantly chasing perfection. They believe life should look a certain way. They expect everything to align perfectly: career, relationships, success, emotions. And when reality doesn't match that expectation, frustration begins. The truth is, life was never meant to be perfect. Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius understood this clearly. Instead of resisting imperfection, they accepted it. They saw obstacles not as interruptions, but as part of the journey itself. When you stop demanding perfection, something changes. You become more patient, more grounded, more at peace. Because happiness doesn't come from a perfect life, it comes from a resilient mind. Another hidden trap is living too much in the past. Thinking about what you could have done differently. Regretting missed opportunities. Replaying mistakes over and over again. This drains your energy. The past cannot be changed. No matter how much you think about it, no matter how much you wish it were different, it remains the same. But many people stay trapped there, carrying emotional weight that serves no purpose. A stronger approach is to learn from the past, but not live in it. Take the lesson. Leave the regret, because every moment you spend stuck in the past is a moment you lose in the present. At the same time, many people are also trapped in the future. They worry about what might happen. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They stress over things that haven't even occurred. This creates anxiety. You begin to suffer not from reality, but from imagination. Stoicism teaches you to return to the present moment, to deal with what is in front of you, not what might happen later. When you focus on the present, your mind becomes clearer. Your actions become more effective. And most importantly, your peace returns. Another reason happiness feels distant is because people tie their worth to external achievements. They believe they are only valuable if they succeed, if they are recognized, if they reach a certain level. But this creates a fragile identity. Because if your worth depends on outcomes, then every failure feels like a personal loss. Every setback feels like a judgment on who you are. A stronger mindset separates self-worth from results. You are not your achievements. You are your actions, your values, your effort. When you understand this, failure loses its power over you. And with that, your peace becomes stable. There is also a silent struggle that many people face. They don't know how to be alone. They constantly seek distraction, noise, company, anything to avoid being with their own thoughts. But this avoidance creates dependence. Because if you cannot be alone with yourself, you will always rely on something external to feel okay. Stoicism encourages solitude, not as isolation, but as reflection. When you spend time alone, you begin to understand yourself. You become comfortable with your thoughts. You develop inner stability, and from that stability, happiness begins to grow. Another powerful shift comes from accepting that not everything will go your way. Life will challenge you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. This is not negativity. It is reality. The problem is, most people resist this. They expect life to be easy. And when it isn't, they feel frustrated. But when you accept that challenges are part of life, your perspective changes. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, how can I handle this better? This question builds strength, and strength creates peace. Many people also struggle with happiness because they lack discipline. They follow whatever they feel in the moment. They act based on mood, not intention. And this leads to inconsistency. Inconsistent actions create unstable results. And unstable results create frustration. Stoicism teaches discipline as a foundation for freedom. When you control your actions, you gain control over your life. You wake up when you don't feel like it. You work when it's difficult. You stay consistent even when motivation fades. And over time, this builds confidence. Because you begin to trust yourself. Another overlooked factor is the influence of your environment. The people you surround yourself with, the content you consume, the conversations you engage in, all of it shapes your mindset. If you are constantly exposed to negativity, comparison, and distraction, it will affect how you think. A weak environment creates a weak mindset. A strong environment supports growth. You don't have to control everything, but you can be intentional about what you allow into your mind. Because your mind becomes what you feed it, there is also a deeper truth about happiness that many people ignore. It requires responsibility. It is easier to blame life, blame others, blame circumstances. But this keeps you stuck. When you take responsibility, you take control. You stop waiting for things to change. You become the one who creates change. This is not always easy. But it is powerful, because responsibility shifts you from a passive role to an active one. And in that shift, you begin to shape your own life. Fire mid-video call to action. If you're still watching, you're not just looking for motivation, you're looking for real change. So take a step right now. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful Stoic lessons that will help you build a stronger, calmer, and more focused mind. Because what you're learning here can truly change your life. Happiness also grows when you simplify your life. Many people complicate things unnecessarily. Too many goals, too many distractions, too many expectations. This creates mental overload. When your mind is overwhelmed, it becomes difficult to feel at peace. Stoicism encourages simplicity. Focus on what matters. Let go of what doesn't. When you simplify, your mind clears. Your energy becomes focused, and clarity leads to calmness. There is a moment in life that most people quietly experience, but rarely talk about. A moment where everything looks fine on the outside, yet something feels missing on the inside. You may have goals. You may be working hard. You may even be achieving things. But despite all of that, there is still a sense of emptiness. This is where many people begin to question everything. And this is exactly where Stoic wisdom becomes powerful. Thinkers like Marcus Aurelius didn't search for happiness in external success. They understood that external things are unstable. They change. They come and go. If your happiness depends on something that can be taken away, then your happiness is always at risk. This is why Stoicism focuses inward. Because the only place where stability truly exists is within you. One of the biggest shifts you can make is changing how you define happiness. Most people define it as pleasure, excitement, or constant positive emotion. But these things are temporary. They rise and fall depending on circumstances. Stoicism offers a different definition. Happiness is not constant excitement, it is inner peace. It is the ability to remain calm when things go wrong. It is the ability to stay grounded when life becomes uncertain. It is the ability to handle challenges without losing yourself. This kind of happiness is quiet. It is steady, and most importantly, it lasts. Another important realization is that your mind is always creating meaning. Every situation you face is neutral at first. It is your interpretation that gives it emotion. Two people can experience the same event and react completely differently. One sees failure, the other sees a lesson. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. This means your experience of life is not controlled by events, it is shaped by your perspective. And this is powerful, because if your perspective creates your experience, then changing your perspective changes your life. There is also something important you must understand about pain. Pain is not always negative. In fact, some of the most important growth in your life will come through discomfort. When you go through challenges, you are forced to adapt, to think differently, to become stronger. But most people resist this. They try to avoid pain at all costs. And in doing so, they avoid growth. Stoicism teaches you to face discomfort willingly. Not because you enjoy it, but because you understand its purpose. When you stop running from difficulty, you stop fearing life. And when you stop fearing life, you begin to feel free. Another reason people struggle with happiness is because they are disconnected from the present moment. They are either thinking about what happened yesterday or worrying about what might happen tomorrow. But life is not happening yesterday. And it is not happening tomorrow. It is happening now. When your attention is constantly somewhere else, you miss the only moment that actually exists. The present moment is where your actions happen. It is where your choices are made. It is where your life is lived. Stoicism teaches awareness of the present. Not in a passive way, but in an active, focused way. When you are fully present, even simple moments become meaningful. There is also a deep connection between happiness and responsibility. At first, this may sound surprising. But when you take responsibility for your life, something changes. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for things to improve. You take action, and action creates momentum. Momentum creates progress, and progress creates fulfillment. This is why responsibility is not a burden, it is power. Another important factor is how you talk to yourself. Most people are unaware of their internal dialogue. They constantly criticize themselves, doubt themselves, and focus on their weaknesses. This creates a negative mental environment. If your mind is constantly attacking you, how can you feel at peace? Stoicism encourages awareness of your thoughts. Not every thought is true. Not every thought is useful. You can question your thoughts. You can change them. And when you begin to speak to yourself with clarity instead of criticism, your mindset begins to shift. Happiness also requires patience. In a world where everything is instant, people expect results quickly. They want change immediately. But real growth does not work that way. It takes time to build discipline. It takes time to change your thinking. It takes time to create a new life. A weak mind becomes frustrated by this. A strong mind accepts it. It understands that every small step matters. That progress is happening, even when it is not visible. And because of this, it keeps going. Final message. If you've stayed with this message, it means something inside you is ready to change. You're not just looking for temporary motivation, you're searching for something deeper. And here's the truth. Happiness is not something waiting for you in the future. It is something you build, moment by moment, through how you think, how you act, and how you live. When you take control of your mind, everything changes. Your reactions change. Your perspective changes. Your life changes. Subscribe to this channel right now for more powerful Stoic wisdom that will help you build discipline, clarity, and true inner peace. Because in the end, happiness is not about having more. It's about needing less, and becoming more.